Okay, good afternoon. Nice to see you all and welcome to AU, especially if you're new. I know some people have been here a little bit. Now we're in a different role. I'm here to talk to you about our graduate students and a little bit about my office. So with that. Okay, so the Office of Graduate and Professional Studies is dedicated to the advancement and success of our graduate students. So we have four main components within our office: graduate studies, professional studies, which is executive ed and a lot of like skilling and credentialing type programs and on degree. Sorry, I completely messed that up and I apologize. Professional studies, which are academic programs, but they were more professional students continuing ed programs. My apologies. Online learning. And so we just took over the instructional design segment for the university. And so that falls under my office now. And then also lifelong learning. And lifelong learning is the skillings, credentialings, badgings, the non-degree pieces of the office. So just to give you a little bit of information about our graduate students, our current graduate students, I'm just showing you sort of the percentages across the graduate schools. The Washington College of Law is not included in here just because our data sources are a bit different. You can see that we have pretty much even part-time and full-time students. It used to be a little bit higher in terms of part-time, but now it's almost 50-50. We also, as always, have more females than male students here at AU. That's been the way for many years. I've been here 16 years now. And so that's been the way it has been. And then you can see the split across the various units on campus. Some of the schools have lower numbers of residential students and higher numbers of online students. And then other places, they have higher numbers of residential than online. So this combines all of those. What are our top residential programs in the graduate space? I've listed them here. The City Teaching Alliance program is a program that deals with elementary school education or K through 12 education, and it's not really considered a residential program for us, but it is here. It is our #2 program now. And so I did list it here, but wanted to just clarify that that's doesn't quite fall into the residential bucket. It also doesn't fall into the online bucket. So I thought it was important here. We always get a lot of students from the DMV. You'll hear that at AU. We use a lot of acronyms. And so please feel free to stop me when I say one that you don't understand. But Washington, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. We also get students from New York and California. Obviously, we get students from all over the country and all over the world, but these are our top 5. And then I've also shown you the top 5 international countries. So what does my office do? My office handles all academic regulations in the graduate space. So we're responsible for the graduate academic regulations and policies. We also handle anything that petitions those regulations. So if a student needs another additional semester of leave, or a student is saying, I don't agree with my dismissal from the university, all of that paperwork, all of those petitions would come to our office for processing and then follow whatever process is laid out. And I wouldn't want to bore you with all of those policies and processes. You can find them, of course, online, but we would handle any of the issues there. In the graduate space, marketing and admissions of programs is not centralized like it is the undergraduate. It is done by the individual schools. So each individual school has their own graduate admissions and marketing team. But my office provides them with data, provides them with money, provides them as best practices and things like that. And so we have an active role. We meet with the schools every other week to make sure we're aligning our processes, make sure we're sharing best practices and those things. And so that's what happened there. That's that aspect of my office. So we don't do graduate admissions, but we definitely influence them and work with the schools to do that. This, of course, includes data. So you're very data driven here in terms of, admissions modeling, enrollment modeling, any type of retention, graduation data that would all come out of my office to be able to share that across the different schools and with the deans. As I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we took over the online learning and instructional design aspect for the university. While obviously online programs can be graduate and undergraduate, the majority of our purely online programs currently live in the graduate space. And so for coordination and integration with programs, we recently acquired that team, which is a wonderful team, and they work across all the schools of the university to help move programs into the online space. In terms of our graduate education, we see a marketplace that is definitely moving towards hybrid courses, hybrid modalities, students being able to take both within programs, some courses online and some courses residential, and also just in terms of the classroom space. So rethinking how we do graduate classes. Do we need students to come on campus every single class period, or can we do a combination of that? In addition, obviously, these technologies and these things help us to catch students up. So a lot of faculty will decide to put some of their content online or record classes. So if a student misses it, you're not required to do that, but there are a lot of faculty that will do that, or they may teach a class online and also teach a residential version, and they'll be able to use their resources across both classes. And so that's something that my team can help with. Okay. Also within my team, and I'll just mention this, there are a few academic programs, as I mentioned, in continuing ed that fall into my unit as an academic unit. We're not officially an academic unit. We're obviously under the office of the provost, but we do have a couple of programs, like I mentioned, in continuing ed that came in under my office once our School of Continuing Ed closed. And then we also have a full marketing team and communication team. And we also do graduate student programming. So on the academic side. So you will see things come out this year, like dissertation writing workshops for students to come together, town halls for international students, for campus students, for online students, different opportunities for students to connect with my office and for us to be able to be a liaison and an advocate for them across campus. So we do a variety of programming also. And we also handle a common graduate orientation that is then given to the individual schools to adjust and adapt based on their program. So our office puts together the materials that deal with all the regulations and all these processes and policies that, may bore people, but are important. And so we do that portion of the orientation. And then the individual schools will take that orientation and then adapt and add things that are program specific. So we have a consistent piece and then a piece that is customized based on the program. Okay, so one of the most important things that I need to talk about today is in terms of graduate assistants. And many of you will have graduate assistants over the time that you are here. They are often assigned to you, and some places you get to hire and you'll interview for that. But in a lot of schools, graduate assistants are assigned to the faculty member based on common interest, need, things like that. So our graduate students are unionized. And so we obviously, whether we're unionized or not, we want to be very careful to make sure that we understand the roles and the duties of a graduate assistant. And so there is a lot of text here, but we want to make sure that the roles and the responsibilities of a graduate assistant align with advancing both the academic unit and also advancing their teaching and their training. Okay, so we want to make sure that our graduate assistants aren't like picking up dry cleaning for us and things like that, but rather that they're working to support you in your research, support you in the classroom based on how that assignment was given to you. Okay, and so what I've done here is I've included the standard roles and responsibilities for graduate assistants. This is also similar for teaching assistants. We want to make sure that the job of a TA is focused predominantly on the pedagogical work associated with the academic content. Okay, so while the TA, they're going to report to the faculty member, they can use their expertise, they can help with, small groups, they can help teach classes, they can help with grading. But we want to try to ensure that it is consistent with what we've hired them to do. And again, this also aligns for research assistants. So when I use the term graduate assistant, it encompasses everyone. But of course, sometimes people are hired specifically to be a research assistant for us and sometimes a teaching assistant. And sometimes those roles overlap a little bit. But again, we want to make sure that we're consistent with that. So if you do have an RA, again, the RA would report into the faculty member, but you want to make sure that the responsibilities have to deal with the research that you're working on. Okay, and advancing their understanding. So analyzing data, coding data, doing literature reviews, finding literature for you, things like that. Any questions or concerns here? Okay. Yes.
Sorry, is there a? Yeah.
Thanks.
For our friends online, is there a blanket NDA or any other, just in terms of, if you're gathering any kind of sensitive source data, human data, interview data, is there a blanket NDA that the GAs are assigned to, or will we have to sign that and negotiate it individually?
There are some sample NDAs, and the human research, like the IRB board, has a lot of documents there. There's not sometimes there are different NDAs, like companies will require different things. And so we do have some samples we could provide you, or a company will give you one. But we would, but there isn't one that everyone has to use. Great question. Okay, so I felt it was important to put some inappropriate GA assignments up here. Again, I don't expect that anyone in this room would do any of these things, but we just want to make sure that personal services are not part of a GA. So non-work chores, duties, administrative work that does not advance the professional development. And again, sometimes a little bit of administrative work is okay, but you want to make sure that that's not predominantly what the student is doing unless that's what they were hired to do. Maintaining any personal computer for the supervisor, cleaning up after department functions or things like that. We know our graduate assistants, they really want to help, and they really want to make us happy, and they really want to, they usually are so honored to work with all of you and be a part of your research or your teaching, but we just want to make sure that we're not taking advantage of that in any way. Okay, so if you're supervising a graduate assistant, I would ask that you clearly communicate your expectations for that graduate assistant. We hear regularly from graduate students that faculty asked them to do something that they didn't expect they were doing, or that wasn't what they believed they were doing. And so we do think it helps a lot if you can clearly communicate that information. Make sure that the work is appropriate, again, based on the role. Assign work that is feasible within the allocation of the role. This is probably the biggest thing we hear about in my office, is that a faculty member has given me 20+ hours worth of work and I'm only assigned to them for 10 hours. We know that sometimes students also don't communicate back to you on how long things are taking them. And so it is really important to have that open communication and that dialogue so that the student can be successful in all the other things they have to do. We have a lot of students that are working in addition to the GA-ship, obviously taking full-time classes. So it's really helpful if you try to figure out about how long the work's going to take and be consistent and have that open channel of communication. If your GA is not meeting your expectations, we also ask that you reach out and tell them that. Especially if you can put some things in email, have those conversations. We don't want to make it, too uptight and formal. Of course, you're building a relationship with this person and working with this person, and hopefully they'll work with you for a while, especially if it's on research. However, if they're not meeting your expectations, we hope that you're clarifying that. We do hear from faculty, like, I'm really frustrated, my GA or my RA is not doing a great job. And we're like, have you told them, right? Have you had that conversation? And so we'd want to make sure that that happens too. Again, if it's still not working, you've clarified expectations, you're having meetings, and it's still not working out, we'd want to make sure that you work with your graduate associate dean in the school. There's many people you can work with, but you'd want to make sure that you tell your graduate associate dean so they can also help and work with the student, and we can figure that out. And I've added here to provide feedback when requested. Most of the student GAs at the university, everything except for the business school and the law school, with a few exceptions, are on what we call graduate financial aid. This is merit aid that's given from the university out of a pool. And when they have a graduate assistantship that's paid for by graduate financial aid, they are on a payment schedule. So you are not filling in a time card to say they worked 8 of the 10 hours this week, or they worked 11 of 10, right? Or things like that. It is a set, they work 10 hours and they get paid a set amount over the 15 weeks of the semester. Because of that, it is important that if we send you, or your school sends you, a survey to say, hey, how's it going? That you please respond to that and let us know. So we're asking you to let us know if it's not going well. But also if we do request information, if you can let us know that, that's extremely helpful. So we can help better match, so we can help intervene. Question? Yeah.
All right. Is there any mechanism if students have performed above and beyond, or if they've traveled for the role, anything like that? Is there any mechanism to provide a bonus? end of year if there's funds available?
Not a bonus, but there are different like travel funds and scholarship funds that can be eligible for, that students can be eligible for. So there are small grants for that. And we're always happy to provide those if we can, but there's not an opportunity to like work extra hours. Like I said, it's kind of a set payment. Yes.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. If we're looking to hire somebody and we need them to use like a specific software in their work with us, but it's say expensive to procure, how do we go about getting our GAs set up with like laptops and the materials that they need to work with us?
So you would want to talk to your school about if there's resources. We don't usually provide laptops. There may be like a certain laptop that they need access to be able to use that software on or things like that. And so your school should be able to work with you to see if that's available and where the laptop would be. Would they allow them to take it home? Most schools have an individual IT person that works with OIT and can help with all of that. But it's not a sort of set form. If you're having trouble, let me know.
Let's say that we asked them and they said no. Where else would we go?
Okay, if you want to send me an email, I can look into it, but if a school says no, that's a little bit harder because it would be resources via the school.
Okay.
There's not really like, I don't have a fund for laptops to give out, but I'm happy to try to navigate that or work with OIT with you to help get the software.
Okay, thank you very much.
And sometimes it's a misunderstanding too. Ooh, sorry, I touched something. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding too about how we can get the software. Can we get the software, what the licensing looks like? And I'm happy to try to navigate that for you. Was there another question over here? Oh, sure.
Online. The question is, did I hear correctly that most graduate courses are online/remote? If correct, is AU trying to move to in-person since generally top graduate programs are in person? Question mark?
No, so unfortunately that wasn't correct, and I'm sorry if I said that. We have a lot of our online courses are currently graduate courses. That does not mean most of our graduate courses are online. We still have many more in-person programs that we do online at this point. So I apologize for that clarification. Do you want me to take this next question too? I'm seeing it pop up.
Yeah, do you mind reading it?
Yeah, sure. Is there a way to hire GAs who have not received graduate financial aid if the faculty member has funding for them? And the answer to that is absolutely. There are different ways to hire graduate assistants, whether it's through grants, whether it's through other funding. And like I mentioned, like, for example, if you're working in the Kogod School of Business and you've been given a GA, you would actually list the requirements for that GA and hire that GA. It's not assigned to you. Whereas some of the GAs that come through our graduate financial aid pool are assigned to faculty. So it just depends on the type of GA, what funding source you have, and how that person is assigned or not assigned to you. It's not one process. But absolutely, we encourage you to hire our students. Absolutely.
Sorry, I just wanted to elaborate. I just missed. So if I have funding and I need a GA, I can reach out to your office.
We can absolutely help you. Usually the best person to help you is the finance person in your school,
Yes.
so that you can post the position through our HR student portal. And you can then therefore specify what you're looking for. Like if you need a graduate student who knows Excel really well, has some data experience, you can put all of that in, and then you can actually collect resumes for that.
So you do it across the university for all GAs?
Do what? I'm sorry.
So the portal. So if conversely, if I have a GA who comes to me and says, I would like a graduate assistantship in School of Ed, can we ask them to submit their
So it depends on how that GA ship is funded. So if you have grant funding and you're just able to hire a GA as part of that grant, you can work with your finance person, they'll put the position up on HR, you can go that route. If you have graduate financial aid and a person was assigned to you, you don't have to go through that, you just work with the person assigned. So it depends on the funding source, and it depends on how you're hiring that GA. And then a lot of people will meet students in the classes that they teach and find a student that is really interested in their work, and they'll say, they'll ask their school about getting a GA ship to be able to hire that student in.
Okay, because sometimes Thank you. Sometimes some of the skills that I need are very, very unique.
Yes, and if that's the case, then you need to definitely communicate with your graduate associate dean. So the School of Ed this year is Carolyn Parker, about what you need and what you're looking for in that student, or your finance. So Chris Morgan and which is SOE's finance person, about posting a position.
Thank you.
Based on that. Absolutely. And by the way, I don't know every finance person in every school. I know most of them, but luckily I knew those ones. But any other, oh, sorry, hi.
Yeah, hi. So my question was like, you were mentioning about 10 hours a week. Is that like a standard across AU, or do you have different positions like 25%? 10 hours a week is like a 25%. Do you have like 50%, 75%?
So we definitely, our PhD students often are 20 hours per week. It depends. Most of our master students are 10 hours a week. There are some that are 5. I would say the majority that you will see if they're a PhD student is 20, and the majority of our graduate assistantships are 10 hours a week. It doesn't mean a student couldn't have 2, and it doesn't mean a student couldn't do more. We are limited though on the amount of hours a student can work in total. So our CBA requires no more than 27. And so we ask that people have to get individual approval, or schools have to get approval to have a student work beyond 20 hours and up to 27. And in that case, we need to know that the work aligns with their academic journey, what they're looking to do, so their academic progress. So we might have a student sometimes that's working like 20 hours a week, but then they get an opportunity to be a student editor in a research journal or something like that. And so of course we would approve the additional 7 hours for that, because they're trying, they're an academic and they're researching. So that would be something we would approve.
Hey, this goes back to one of your previous slides that said our graduate students, and it had the top on-campus programs. Someone online was wondering, does this mean COGOT is not in the top 7 for graduate programs?
So 2 of the graduate programs listed there, the sustainability and the business analytics, are COGOT programs.
Perfect.
Yeah. Any other questions? Great question. Okay, should I move quickly? Because I know we have limited time. Okay. This is the last slide, but probably the most important slide. And I see Bridget here and I see Diana here, so I'm sure some of this will come up, but just a few things that we need you to remember. We ask that all faculty verify their rosters. So your teaching rosters for your classes are in your AU portal. And you will be asked to verify that roster. So even if you are someone who does not intend to take attendance each day or each class period, we ask that for the first couple you do, so that you can then verify that roster with the university. This is really important in terms of financial aid, in terms of knowing who's in the classes, registrations, billing. And we have to obviously report at census which students are in which classes and how many students we have. And so we do ask that you do that. It's very, very simple. Like I said, it's in the same place where you go in and find your roster. There's also a tab to verify your roster, and we'd ask you to do that around class 3. Okay, if you meet once a week and it's like a block class, then after the second one is fine, but we do ask you to do that probably by the end of the second week. Okay, and you'll get some reminders, but we ask you to look for that. I want to mention our academic alert system. So an academic alert is something that you can give to a student. You go right onto your portal again, and you can provide an academic alert to any student who is not meeting expectations in the class. Okay, what this does is it sends a message to the student, also to the student's advisor, and also to you, to say that a faculty member has issued an academic alert. When I issue those, I usually put a message into the student. Sometimes it's like, hey, you're not failing the class yet. We still have time to turn this around, but let's meet and talk about it so we can see where you are. You can send an academic alert at any point in the semester. Okay, we love for faculty to have a deliverable before the last day to drop for the last day to drop for refund. That's not always possible, especially in graduate classes, but the academic alert system is really important because it does sort of notify many people, including the student, to be able to say, hey, things aren't growing great. So what can we do to help provide support? Whether that's tutoring, other support, whether that's saying, maybe you should drop the class because it isn't looking good, any of those things. And so it helps for us to intervene and really work with the student. Again, it does help, I think, when you customize the message a little bit. Students can get nervous when they get these, but it is important that we're reaching out and helping a student because we want to intervene as early as possible. And I see a question.
Is this the same schedule as for the online portion?
No, I'll definitely get to that. So the question was, is this on here? Is this the same schedule for online? The answer is no, but I will definitely get to that. And then we also have something called care reports. Care reports are something that faculty can submit, and we ask you to submit if you feel like something's not quite right for a student. Maybe they look like they haven't slept, maybe they look like something's going on, they look sad, they look more removed from class, something like that. When you submit a care report, you would put in information, and the Dean of Students Office would reach out to the student to see if something's going on. Okay, we appreciate that if there is something going on, if you do complete a care report, that's really helpful and has really helped a lot of students get back on track, has helped us provide additional support, has helped us to get students leave if maybe they have an ill family member or something like that. So if you see something and something just doesn't seem right and the student, something's going on, please submit a care report, just say what you're thinking, right? There, you know, it's something to really help our students be successful. And so we do appreciate when faculty submit these. And again, you can submit them anytime you want. Okay, so now we get to the add drop dates. And so the add drop dates here, I put here for the traditional semester. We have 3 refund periods, 100% refund. And I mentioned, you know, sometimes having an assignment due before that if you can. Even things like attendance or engagement in class can be something you can look at if a student's really not doing that, reaching out to them. But being aware of these dates, I know the 100% refund comes really quickly. So, and these are all posted on the academic calendars. So I think for your question about the online calendars have different dates and they're published right on the university registrar site. So if you go on the main site, go to calendars, all these dates are here. So there are dates for 100% refund, dates for 50% refund and 25%. And again, this is the traditional calendar. So the programs that are on the traditional school calendar, 2-semester programs. We also here, I put the last day to drop add. We allow a graduate student to drop a class up until the last day of class. This is not the same on the undergraduate side. Okay, on the undergraduate side, it's week 10, I believe, and I'm sure Bridget will tell you that, but on the graduate side, we allow a student, now not with a refund, but to drop a class and say, you know what, this didn't go well for me, up until the very last day of classes. Okay, and that's why that is noted here.
I just had a question about the care report process.
Sure.
So if I see a student and they don't look okay, so I would report it to your office, and then how does that work?
You go right onto the portal
Yeah.
and right there you submit a care report. It will walk you through the information you have, what you're thinking. It could just be as simple as like, I don't have a lot to go on, but the student just is acting differently than they had been all semester. It's happened maybe 2 classes in a row. I'd like, you know, I tried to maybe see how the student was, but they're not responsive, you know, whatever you want to put in there. It can be a lot of data and information. It can just be like, something just doesn't seem right to me. And that goes directly to the Dean of Students office. So it doesn't go to me. And then one of the Dean of Students counselors will reach out to the student. Yeah, and it's all done through our portal. So it's all done in the AU portal, like the myau.american. You can go in there. That's where you get your roster, your class schedule. That's where you verify your roster. That's where you can submit an academic alert. That's where you put in final grades. It's all there, and it should walk you right through the process.
But I also meant, like, has that gone well for students? Like, do they feel alarmed when they hear from, like, because
It's gone both ways. I'd be lying if I said, there weren't some students that were really angry that we intervened. I would say significantly more times a student is thankful that we've been able to get them resources. And I would say, 98% of the time. There are definitely students that are going through things that don't want, and the Dean of Students Office is trained to, they're going to respect privacy. They're going to, you can ask. I'm not sure. I don't think you can be completely anonymous, but they could say just one of your faculty members has reached out because they're concerned, right? And there's different ways to go about that. Question?
Is it the same place where we report, like, say, for instance, Title IX related stuff as well?
So Title IX reports go through the Title IX office.
Okay.
And there's a whole reporting right through there. So there's like a faculty grievance piece that goes to the Dean of Faculty office. There's care reports that go through the Dean of Students office. And then there's Title IX reports that go through the Title IX office. And by the way, if you submit to the wrong place, we will just tell you and redirect it. We all work together all the time. And so don't worry. The big thing for us is that the sooner we can intervene and help a student or help a situation, the better for that student. And so we just hope that you'll report and let us know.
We are out of time, unfortunately.
So can I just mention this, sorry, the GPA really quickly. Graduate students have to have a 3.0 GPA to graduate. If they drop below a 3.0, they get put on probation. That does not mean they can't get a C in a class. You should give them the grade that they deserve in a class, right? It's the average, it's the GPA. So I just want to mention that. Sometimes you'll hear from students, I can't get a C because, and they might put pressure on the faculty. You should obviously give the grade that's deserved in the class. We want you to work with students. We want students to do well, but just know that graduate students do need to graduate with a 3.0 or better. Any other questions, you can always feel free to email my office. We're happy to help and put you in the right direction, And with that, again, welcome to AU. Thanks so much.